In just 3 years, ChatGPT went from 0 to nearly 800 million users. Compare that to the internet, which took 13 years to reach the same milestone. But here's what's really staggering. AI just discovered 2.2 million new materials in a single breakthrough, equivalent to roughly 800 years of traditional human research. That's not incremental progress, that's a complete rewriting of the rules. Welcome to Mindcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the ideas shaping our future. I'm your host, Will, and today we're tackling one of the most important questions of our time. Is artificial intelligence really different from every technological revolution that came before it? I'm going to argue that yes, it absolutely is, and the evidence might fundamentally change how you think about what's happening right now. Over the next 20 minutes, we'll explore why AI isn't just another step in our digital evolution, but something categorically more profound. We'll uncover the messy, friction-filled reality of how past tech revolutions actually unfolded, examine what makes AI ontologically different from every tool humans have ever created, and discover how it's becoming humanity's ultimate invention machine. So buckle up. This journey is going to challenge everything you think you know about technological progress. Let me start with a story that might surprise you. We have this narrative in our culture that technological progress moves smoothly. New innovations emerge, get adopted quickly, and transform society overnight. The transistor revolutionized electronics, personal computers democratized information, smartphones connected the world. Clean, linear progress, right? Wrong. When you actually dig into the history, that story completely falls apart. These weren't smooth revolutions. They were decades-long slogs through manufacturing disasters, corporate warfare, and legal battles that make today's tech industry look like a friendly book club. Take the transistor, the foundation of everything digital. When researchers at Bell Labs finally created the first working transistor in December 1947, they thought the hard part was over. They were catastrophically wrong. Early manufacturing had functional yield rates of just 5%. 5%! Imagine if 95 out of every 100 products you tried to make were complete failures. The first transistor radio cost over $1,000 in today's money and performed worse than the vacuum tube radios it was supposed to replace. It only found success in hearing aids because that was literally the only market where miniaturization mattered enough to justify the terrible performance and astronomical cost. But here's where it gets really messy. The only reason transistor technology spread globally was because of an antitrust case. In 1952, the U.S. government forced Bell Labs to license their transistor patents to prevent a domestic monopoly. This accidentally handed the technology to Japanese companies like Sony, who then perfected the manufacturing process and completely destroyed the American market. The U.S. response? A full-scale trade war in the 1980s, complete with heavy tariffs, accusations of predatory pricing, and what economists call dumping, selling products below cost to kill competitors. We literally went to economic war over semiconductors.
And that pattern repeated with every major breakthrough. The personal computer era was defined by what historians call the home computer wars of the early 1980s. Companies like Commodore, Texas Instruments, and Atari engaged in such vicious price slashing that they literally destroyed industry profitability. Texas Instruments went from controlling a third of the home computer market to completely abandoning the sector after absorbing hundreds of millions in losses. Their advanced computer ended up selling for just $99 at massive losses because competitors were systematically undercutting each other into bankruptcy.
When IBM tried to establish the personal computer standard, companies responded with what they called clean room reverse engineering, basically legal corporate espionage, where teams of engineers would recreate IBM's technology without ever seeing the original code. This launched a massive market of IBM PC clones that completely undermined IBM's business model. It was technological innovation through intellectual property warfare. But the smartphone era takes the crown for pure legal brutality. From 2009 onwards, major manufacturers launched what became known as the smartphone patent wars, the most expensive intellectual property conflict in technological history. Here's a statistic that will blow your mind. In 2011, technology giants spent more money buying patents and funding lawsuits than they spent on actual research and development. More money on lawyers than engineers. Apple sued Samsung for slavishly copying designs. Nokia sued everyone. Microsoft extracted billions from Android manufacturers through patent threats. Juries awarded billion-dollar damages over features as basic as pinch to zoom and the rubber banding effect when you scroll past the end of a page. Google bought Motorola for $12.5 billion, primarily for its patent portfolio to defend Android. Apple, Microsoft, and Sony spent $4.5 billion on 6,000 Nortel patents purely for defensive purposes. Think about that. Billions of dollars spent not on innovation, but on legal ammunition. The pattern is clear. Every previous technological revolution was defined by what I call friction. Manufacturing failures, supply chain vulnerabilities, patent wars, trade protectionism, and zero-sum corporate warfare. These were passive tools that required massive physical infrastructure and were constantly constrained by the limitations of atoms, geography, and human politics. Which brings us to our second major point. AI represents a fundamental philosophical breakthrough that changes everything. For the entire history of human technology, from the hand axe to the steam engine to the smartphone, every single tool has been fundamentally passive. A computer, no matter how powerful, sits there doing absolutely nothing until you press a key. A smartphone, despite connecting you to the entire internet, requires your finger to tell it what to do. These are what philosophers call passive substrates. They wait for human commands and execute predefined functions. AI crosses what I call a profound ontological threshold. Drawing on philosophical distinctions that go back to Aristotle, previous computing operated within the realm of passive intellect, systems that are affected by external inputs but can't think independently. Modern AI emulates what philosophers call the active intellect. It forms its own concepts, draws inferences, executes goal-directed actions, and synthesizes entirely novel outputs without step-by-step human instruction. We're not talking about a faster calculator or a better search engine. We're talking about synthetic cognition, artificial minds that can reason, create, and discover. And this philosophical difference explains why AI adoption has been so fundamentally different from every previous technology. It doesn't require building new factories, supply chains, or distribution networks. It piggybacked on the digital infrastructure that the PC and smartphone era spent 40 years building. More importantly, it interfaces through natural human language via web browsers and mobile apps already in billions of hands. No new hardware to buy, no complex programming to learn, no physical constraints to overcome. The adoption numbers are genuinely staggering. Personal computers took 3 years to hit 20% adoption. The internet took 13 years to reach 800 million users. ChatGPT hit that same milestone in under 3 years. By August 2024, nearly 40% of working-age Americans had integrated generative AI into their daily routines. A comprehensive survey found that within 3 years of release, 60% of U.S. adults had used generative AI, making it the fastest adopted general-purpose technology in recorded economic history. Not just fast, unprecedented. But daily usage tells an even more remarkable story. Among workers who use AI, daily usage jumped from 21% to 31% in just 4 months in 2025. These aren't people occasionally experimenting. They're integrating AI into core workflows.
They report average productivity improvements of 15%. Unlike the historical productivity paradox, where computers took decades to show up in economic statistics, AI is already affecting 1.3 to 5.4% of all work hours, indicating a rapid structural transformation of how humans work. But this brings us to our third and most important point. AI isn't just a new tool. It's what economists call an invention of a method of invention. If the transistor gave us the ability to calculate and the internet gave us the ability to communicate globally, AI gives us something far more profound, the ability to autonomously invent. It fundamentally restructures how we discover new knowledge and solve problems that exceed human cognitive limits. Let me give you a concrete example that demonstrates this power. For centuries, material science was constrained by trial and error chemistry. Researchers manually tweaked crystal structures or combined elements based on human intuition and limited physical simulation. This laborious process yielded approximately 48,000 stable inorganic crystals over hundreds of years of human effort. Then, DeepMind deployed an AI system called Genome, graph networks for materials exploration. Using neural networks that model atomic connections, it shifted the field from modification to generative design. In a single breakthrough, Genome discovered 2.2 million new crystal structures and identified 380,000 highly stable materials suitable for future technologies. This represents an acceleration equivalent to roughly 800 years of traditional human research compressed into one AI system's output. These aren't just academic curiosities. Among these discoveries are 52,000 new layered compounds similar to graphene and over 528 novel lithium-ion conductors. That's 25 times more solid-state battery materials than previously known to science. Even more remarkable, this discovery process is becoming autonomous. Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory created something called the A-Lab, a closed-loop system where AI predicts a material, designs the chemical recipe, and orchestrates robotic arms to physically manufacture it. They've successfully synthesized over 41 novel materials completely autonomously, proving that AI can transition from theoretical prediction to physical execution without constant human intervention. We're witnessing the emergence of self-directed scientific discovery. The impact on biology is equally revolutionary. For over 50 years, molecular biology was stymied by the protein folding problem, predicting how a protein's amino acid sequence determines its three-dimensional structure. This structure dictates all biological function, and determining a single protein structure traditionally required months or years of expensive laboratory work. In 2020, DeepMind's AlphaFold effectively solved this grand scientific challenge, accurately predicting the spatial configurations of over 200 million proteins, essentially every protein cataloged by science. This AI breakthrough saved the global scientific community hundreds of millions of years of aggregate research time and billions of dollars. The creators were awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2024, recognizing that AI had fundamentally transformed biology from an observational science into an engineering discipline. Think about that. We went from studying life to designing it. This transformation is actively collapsing pharmaceutical development timelines. Traditional drug discovery requires 5 to 6 years just to reach preclinical testing, with average costs exceeding $2.6 billion per approved drug. AI flips this from discovery by luck via massive screening to discovery by design. AI systems analyze datasets to identify novel drug targets in weeks rather than years, then generate optimized molecular structures from scratch. AI-designed drug candidates are reaching preclinical testing in 18 months instead of 5 to 6 years, a 75% compression in timeline with significantly higher success rates. But here's the crucial distinction that many people miss. AI's true historical significance emerges when it's deployed not for automation, but for augmentation. Unlike a physical robot replacing a factory worker, cognitive AI systems empower humans to accomplish tasks previously constrained by biological limitations. By extending human reach into high-dimensional data analysis, pattern recognition, and complex reasoning, AI becomes a powerful complement rather than a substitute. This creates entirely new capabilities and economic value while ensuring humans retain agency and capture benefits from the partnership. However, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. Unlike previous technologies that posed localized risks, data breaches, addiction, employment displacement, AI introduces what experts call existential risks that are categorized alongside nuclear weapons as genuine threats to human survival. The concern isn't science fiction, it's that we're cultivating non-human intelligence that could eventually outpace human cognitive capabilities. Leading AI researchers estimate a 10% or greater probability that our inability to properly align advanced AI systems with human values could lead to catastrophic outcomes, including human extinction. This risk is compounded by geopolitical competition. Much like the nuclear arms race, AI development is viewed as a strategic imperative, particularly between the United States and China. Nations and corporations are heavily disincentivized from slowing development to implement rigorous safety protocols, because falling behind could mean losing global strategic supremacy. The pursuit of technological parity often trumps global stability, a pattern we've seen throughout history.
So, what does all this mean for you? Let me synthesize this into 3 concrete takeaways that should fundamentally change how you think about the world we're entering. First, we are living through the most significant technological inflection point in human history. This isn't hyperbole. It's supported by adoption data, scientific breakthroughs, and fundamental philosophical differences from every previous technology. The speed and scale of change we're experiencing has no historical precedent. Understanding this helps you prepare for and navigate a world where the rate of change itself is accelerating.
Second, the path to shared prosperity lies in AI augmentation, not automation. If we deploy AI merely to replace human workers, we fall into what economist Eric Brynjolfsson calls the Turing trap, leading to widespread displacement and increased inequality. But if we use AI to augment human capabilities, extending our cognitive reach into complex analysis and creative problem-solving, we create entirely new value and ensure humans benefit from the partnership. The companies, institutions, and individuals who master this augmentation approach will thrive in the AI era. Third, we urgently need new frameworks for managing unprecedented risks. The creation of synthetic cognition that could eventually surpass human intelligence demands international coordination and safety methodologies that transcend traditional software engineering. Unlike debugging a computer program, aligning AI systems with human values requires continuous monitoring, behavioral constraints, and global governance structures. This isn't a technical problem we can solve in isolation. It requires unprecedented cooperation between nations, corporations, and research institutions. Here's what I want you to remember as we wrap up today's episode. We're not witnessing another step in digital evolution. We're experiencing the ignition of active synthetic intelligence within our globally connected infrastructure. The transistor gave us the power to calculate. The internet gave us the power to connect. Artificial intelligence gives us the power to invent. That's not a difference in degree, it's a difference in kind. And recognizing this distinction is crucial for navigating the opportunities and challenges ahead. The artificial intelligence revolution represents the most significant inflection point in human technological development precisely because it transcends the physical limitations that constrained every previous breakthrough. It's achieved unprecedented adoption velocity, operates as an active cognitive entity rather than a passive tool, and functions as humanity's first truly autonomous invention engine. But it also introduces existential risks that demand new forms of global cooperation and safety frameworks. The future is being written right now, and understanding AI's fundamental differences from previous technologies isn't just academic. It's essential for making informed decisions about how we integrate these systems into our work, our institutions, and our lives. The question isn't whether AI will transform our world, it's already happening. The question is whether we'll shape that transformation thoughtfully or let it happen to us. Thank you for joining me on Mindcast today. If this episode changed how you think about AI and technological progress, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your insights on social media using #MindcastPodcast and subscribe for more deep dives into the ideas reshaping our world. Next week, we'll explore the philosophy of consciousness and ask whether AI might actually develop subjective experiences, a question that could redefine what it means to be conscious. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and remember, you're living through history in the making.